guy. I say guy, we're about 99% male viewership here into the 1% females. God bless your souls. Today we got one. A lot of people are excited about this one. I've been excited to bring you this one. We are going to be talking about the Flux Defense Raider. It's the new hotness from Flux Defense. We're going to get all kinds of up in it, but before we do that, let's hit a couple quick housekeeping things. Okay, everyone, we're glad that you're here, and we hope that you enjoy your time on this channel. If you don't, no problem. There's plenty of other channels out there, but we hope you enjoy your time here and that you will subscribe and watch the occasional video. Maybe leave us a comment, preferably a nice one. We're fairly nice despite coming on here and joking around with you guys. The different ways that you can support us, one, behind the scenes. While it may be a little confusing at first, the 1911 Syndicate is actually a real estate company behind the scenes. This is kind of just how we, talk and, and market ourselves and all that good stuff. But we operate in a lot of different cities, ranging from the Fort Bragg area, which is a new one, to Las Vegas, which is a new one, and Connecticut. I don't know couldn't tell you a city that's in Connecticut, but the whole damn state we can operate there, and all kinds of cool places, Dallas and yada, yada, yada. And you can go to 1911syndicate.com and learn all about that and reach out, and we would love that. Beyond that, we, at the time of this video being released, I don't know if we will have any left or not, but we did have some apparel that we came out with, so you can check the site and see if we have any of that left. And then right around the time of this video, roughly give or take a couple weeks, we will probably start to fire up the Patreon machine. We have debated doing OnlyFans just as a joke, and we're still debating that. But regardless, we are going to have a platform where you can go, and if you really like us, you can donate to the cause and help us make some more cool shit for you. But today, all of that out of the way, we're going to be talking about the Flux Raider. And the Raider, just to give you a little bit of sense for this, I'm just going to level with you. I'm going to do it, okay? I am biased on this video, okay? Something you will not hear many YouTubers or people in the gun space admit. I am biased. My name is Jake Dwyer, and I am biased on this review today. I'm not biased because I've gotten a free gun from Flux. They did give me a chassis, which we will kind of talk about how this whole thing works. Basically, I have a hunk of plastic right now that doesn't have a gun in it, and they were nice enough to give me that. I have not built it out. This is from them, and this you will notice this. This is like, I feel like I've seen that one. Yeah, because they've thrown this thing off of, thrown it up in the air and done all kinds of, basically torture tested the shit out of this particular one in some of their videos. So my bias is not because I've been given a lot of free shit or anything like that. It's more a bias because I know the Flux guys. I know, at least, shit, I can think of 4 guys there that I know, the fellas that own it. I know them, they know me. I consider us an emerging friendship there, and I'm biased because I like those guys. That's it. That is not going to prevent me from giving you a straight review, because there's going to be some things I'm going to point out that I think could be better, and there's a lot of good. There's going to be a few things that we address along the way, so I'm just getting that up front. I don't really have anything on the line here other than I like the guys, but that's not really going to change anything in terms of what I'm going to say. That said, let's get on into it. Let's do a little bit of a history lesson on Flux. Now, many of you will be familiar with Flux, some of you will not. So let me take you a little tour down memory lane here. So they are based here in Utah, which is my how I know them, because they're local and I'm local, and we're both in the shooting community, and we've met at events and all of that good stuff. The company was started by a couple dudes who are civilians, and they're kind of engineer, inventor-oriented minds, and civilians, and they came up with a cool concept. And really, the concept was, well, hey, how do we basically attach a brace to, back then, a Glock, so that you could run a Glock as a pistol, or I'm going to say a shoulder-fired Glock because they have an SBR version, okay? Everyone calm down. I know there's a lot of heat on the pistol thing right now, okay? They actually have an SBR version of this as well. But really, like, you know, the first bit of Flux Defense was as a Glock brace. Now, because of Glock being a different platform, you know, if you had like a red dot on your gun, that would reciprocate. Frankly, I still consider the Glock one that they make very cool, and I'm quite fond of it. But then they started out with that. Then they went to the MP17, which we've actually done a review on. You can go and watch that if you care to. It was, you know, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, something like that. Cool product. I really didn't have anything wrong with it from the best of my memory of that review, but they came out with the Raider, which is kind of their version 2.0 of the MP17. Now, the Raider, one thing I would say, and this is, you know, I think even they would admit this, is, hey, a lot of people are really digging what Flux is doing. They are running into a bottleneck that so many companies are, which is keeping up with demand, right? So there would be some criticism that would be out there, and that's just because it's tough to keep up with demand right now. And frankly, if you make a fairly decent gun-related product right now, you're probably gonna have a hard time keeping it in stock, as have they, okay? So if you see some of the criticism, that could be what it's from. What is the actual Flux? Well, the Flux itself is really just a chassis. You're not buying a gun from Flux. What you're buying is, now this is just to clear up for, and I'm gonna keep this relatively kind of simple at first, and then we'll get into the weeds. For those who aren't familiar with this, Flux is just a chassis, okay? It runs on the Sig 320 platform. It would also run on like an M17, I would assume an M18 for those of you who wanna run the cool guy military stuff. But really, versions of the 320, that's what the Flux is for. Now, what you buy from them is not the firearm. You're just buying a chassis. So basically, hey, get rid of the magazines, get rid of the slide, get rid of the fire control group, and just to double check myself, what you're getting in, obviously not optics, lights, any of that kind of stuff. You're just basically getting in the plastic bits. You're getting in the grip module, this that we'll talk about, which is pretty interesting. All of this stuff, the brace itself, as we'll go through it, that's what you're getting. You're just getting a chassis, right? It's a brace. It's a place for a 320 to call itself home, is essentially what you're getting there, okay? And because of the nature of how the Sig 320 platform works, basically what you do is you take that chassis and you drop in your fire control group from a 320, which is the serialized part of a Sig 320 for those unfamiliar with the platform. The frame and the slide don't have a serial number attached. It's the trigger group that has the serial number on it. So basically you're taking the firearm from a 320, the trigger group, dropping it into the chassis, throw some pins in, throw the slide, barrel, all that good stuff in, and voila, you've got that. Obviously red dot light, all that kind of stuff, you're gonna have to address that if you want. Let's see here. You can get it as a pistol or as an SBR. This particular one is a pistol. You will notice from the angle here, it's obviously meant for a right-hand shooter. Therefore, you know, this kind of flush, you know, not goes flush with your arm. I don't know what the hell I was trying to say there. Just go with it, okay? So basically when this deploys, this would, and we will get to that, don't worry, but this basically mounts up with your arm. That way you can pistol brace that shit. That's also why the Glock version has been harder to produce, myself included. I look at this design, I'm like, yo, this is cool, but I want this for a Glock. Yes, everyone would. It's more complicated because of the way the, you know, trigger frame, all that kind of stuff works. It is a more complicated beast. Are they working on it? Yes, they are. Do I have any insider info in terms of timelines to give you on that? No, I don't. I typically do my best to respect any relationships that I have with companies. I'm like, hey, you know, don't tell me shit you don't want to tell me, right? I got a big mouth, and I don't want you to blow your cover there, or I guess me blow your cover actually. So in terms of a little demo, in terms of how this bad boy works, very, very small packages you can see there, and I'm gonna kind of do it as a righty because and we will get to that, but it's really made for a righty. So basically you take your trigger finger, and there's gonna be a little lever here, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna push down on that, right? And your pistol brace is going to deploy. You guys can ridicule me for this, but then at that point you can, fire the weapon or fire the weapon. Do whatever you want to do, you know, like, so there's some interesting features here. The dot, if you choose to use one, is mounted on a Picatinny rail that is on the top here. So what you get is, as you are, I'm going to do it as a proper lefty now, as you are firing, you have a non-reciprocating red dot, aka your slide is moving and your dot is not. Your dot is not. On the Glock version, it's different because of the way the system is set up. Your red dot is going to be reciprocating with you. Could you, in theory, like take this off and just have the dot mounted on your slide? Sure, you could, but then the dot's going to be reciprocating. Is it a big deal? No, I've actually shot that variant that they have, and it's actually pretty damn cool. I'm actually quite fond of it. Some of the other new features that they have on this, that's not a new feature, but that's, you know, an existing feature. What you also have, much like a Unity mount actually, is underneath that dot, you come down and you have a little opening there where you can use your existing iron. So hypothetically, if you either didn't put a dot on this, or if your battery on your dot went out, you could just shift down and you can index those iron sights. Cool design, I'm a fan of it. Some of the other things that we have going on here, in terms of new features, you have an actual thumb safety, okay? So it's a thumb safety. You could, you know, it's up to you whether you want to use the thumb safety or not. You know, if you're running this thing hot in a bag, round chambered, yeah, you're probably going to want to have the thumb safety on. They do make a holster for this, so if this was holstered, hey, totally up to you. Okay, I'm not telling you do or don't use some thumb safety. I'm just saying, hey, it's up to you. It's kind of like a 1911. It is ambidextrous, so that's a nice feature of it, and totally up to you in terms of how you designate that you would like to run that. Some of the other things I can't remember. I'm going to tell you some of this stuff I can't remember if it's on the original MP17, but you have a mag release here that when you slide this, it's just going to drop the mag in the gun. You are going to also have one that's going to be on this side right here. This is taking out for the purposes of a lefty. We will talk about that. But you could push this mag release, also drop this mag. This mag release here is, I would say, the most clever innovation that they have on the gun. So basically, it's a two-stage, and all right, sorry, Flux, your mags are about to hit the snow. So you're shooting, you go to slide lock, okay? This is not really gonna be as seamless one because I'm wearing gloves and I'm cold and I don't have a snap cap in here, so this is not gonna drop real easily, but you get the point. So basically you run to a slide lock reload. This, not trigger, but button that's underneath here is basically gonna be like a two-stage trigger, okay? The first stage, when you hit it, and I'm gonna try to hit it lightly to show you, the first stage is going to just drop the magazine that's here. And this is, by the way, not a vertical foregrip, and it says it right there on the damn thing, you know? So it's like, everyone relax. I'm just using it as a place where my hand goes. So the first stage is gonna drop that front mag. The second stage, if you keep depressing through it, is gonna drop that mag, okay? So basically how it's gonna look, I shoot to a slide lock reload, and right, so basically the mag in the gun automatically gonna fall, take that mag, reload, and then you are gonna use this lever here that you actually use to deploy the brace. You're gonna push that, and again, tough to see at this, but we'll throw in some B-roll. That's actually going to depress the slide release, and then your slide's gonna drop. Very clever. So for righty, boom, mag swap, drop your lever there, and it's going to drop your slide. It's super clever. I mean, from a design perspective, very clever. Very, you know, it's just very clever, you know, and it's cool when you take people's minds who are like, okay, you kind of, shit, there goes your second mag. Sorry, Flux, they're metal mags too. Doing my best out here, guys. It's very clever. You know, that's your Tor, if you will. It is going to have stronger polymer than it used to. You've got a flared mag well. One other thing that, damn it, guys, you got to promote this more on your site. This thing actually has captured tools in it that I don't know why they don't promote more. So basically, where is it? It is, yes. So I'm not going to do it because honestly, my hands are cold as fuck right now. But basically, at the base of the brace or stock, I'm sure the stock has it as well. I mean, I don't have that. You're going to see what looks like a little compartment here. It is. You basically just pry that open and you can store an extra battery in there for your red dot. Very clever, right? So a captured battery. And then underneath here, a little Allen wrench comes out. Well, if that ain't clever as shit, right? And basically that Allen wrench will do all the maintenance that if you needed to like tighten up the little like QD slots here where a sling go or something like that. Pretty much anything on this can be serviced with this tool that, again, is captured within the unit. Like, that's just clever. And why that's not on the Flux site, I don't know. They got to promote that. That is a very, very clever design thing right there. Now, let's shift over to some pros and cons of this bad boy. Okay, so first thing we're going to get into is, well, who is this for? Apparently, some people get confused and they're like, I don't see any relevant application for it. And I think you're crazy if that's what it is. I think there's two categories of people. I think there are end user professionals where it makes a ton of sense, and something like an executive protection role. If you're doing anything where, like, man, you need some decent firepower on you, but you just don't have the footprint to be very exposed in terms of having a rifle or something like that on you, this makes perfect sense. Makes tons of sense for civilians also. I think it's an excellent option for like a bug out bag gun where you're like, man, I need something I can push out to 100 yards with, but it's a very small footprint. You're not going to get much smaller than that and be able to check off that box. So I think it's great for a bug out bag, truck gun, low profile gun for like, hey, maybe a workplace environment or something like that. I think it makes hotel gun, things like that. It makes a ton of sense to me. So if you don't get it, I'm like, dude, I don't even really know what to tell you. To me, it's pretty self-explanatory, all the boxes it checks. This is not a promotion for it because we've already put out a video on it, but I will tell you that the Haley flat pack, I mean, it's really like the damn flat pack was designed for the Flux Raider. I mean, it is the most, or Flux products in general, I mean, they so perfectly go together with no room where it's like you don't even need to strap it down. It just perfectly fits inside of the Haley flat pack. This is the new 2.0 or whatever they're calling the new one now. And it's a really awesome product, okay? Now, let's kind of shift here. I'm gonna shift into this, okay? I'm gonna tell you, I very much like the product. I'm going to give you my things that would be my criticisms, okay? And you can take them for what they are. And I've really got 3 of them, okay? Let's start with this. Let's just start with the biggest one, what I believe to be the biggest one. The biggest one would be that this thing has a challenge running suppressed, okay? So with the suppressor on it, it's pretty tricky to get these things running. Now, here would be my caveat to that. I don't actually know that that is a Flux problem. To me, it seems to be more of a 320 problem, okay? People with a lot more experience, especially on the military side with, people who test stuff for the military, everything, I would love to know their perspective on that. If you just go on the internet and find 320s being run suppressed, you're not going to find a lot, versus a Glock where, all day, no problem, 1911s, whatever. So it's
today, Junior.
It's of notable point because obviously this is a package that would be awesome suppressed, and I'm not saying it's impossible to get it running suppressed. I'm saying it is challenging. Second caveat to so take that with a grain of salt. Could be more of a 320 issue, but it is something to keep in mind if you're like, the only reason I'm buying this is to run it suppressed. Hey, just take that with a grain of salt. The other thing that I would tell you as a caveat to that is with the actual Flux guys, when trying to run this suppressed, they also had a shorter slide version, would have been probably like the same size as a 320X compact. and the shorter slide one was running fine. You may have to swap out a spring, just to, just the recoil spring, and play around with your recoil springs a little bit. The shorter slide didn't seem to have any issues. The longer slide, this would be, I'm assuming a 5-inch slide, but I don't know that for a fact, but it feels to me like a 5-inch slide, is having challenges. So the suppress thing, hey, take it with a grain of salt. It is something that you may have come up if you get one of these. Is the suppressor thing critical? No, it's not critical. Part of the point of this is it having a very, very tiny footprint. So, a very tiny footprint, a suppressor is going to add to that. So that's ding number 1 for me. Ding number 2 would be this. So if I am running this, right, and I'm shooting, and I go to reload. So basically what I'm going to run into is, let's do it as a righty. So basically, as I'm going to reload, depending on how you do your reloads, okay? Some people, obviously, whether it be with ARs or pistols or whatever, they're going to do their reloads in their, quote, workspace, right? Which is, hey, I'm going to, have basically the gun here. I'm going to be doing my reload. That way I can still see what's happening in the world out there. That would be sort of common manual of arms there. The complaint with this would be, well, if you're reloading mostly from your shoulder, AKA I'm doing my mag changes here, right? And I'm swapping out mags, and then I'm going to drop my slide. What you could run into, if there's still pressure on the brace as I'm going to drop my slide, right? Mag goes in, I go to drop my slide, and with gloves, this is a little less tactile, right? But basically, I could run into a situation where I could collapse that stock, okay? Basically, the thing that deploys the brace is the same thing, same mechanism that drops the slide, okay? So basically, under a slide lock reload, if you're going to reload and you're doing it here, I go to drop that slide, and I could wind up collapsing the brace or the stock, whichever version you have. I think it is of, an important note to make, because frankly, most handy people could probably figure out how to fix that with some sort of catch where, hey, you could fix that, and they may be working on that. I'm not sure on that, but it is a concern. I'm going to reload, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh shit, and I got to pop it back out. Just be aware of that. The third thing would be lefty considerations. If you're a lefty, some of this is not going to be, it's going to be fairly manageable, but there's going to be some bottlenecks, okay? The bottlenecks would be the following. If you are, if you're just holding this thing as a pistol because of the angle of the brace, it really doesn't work, because this is just going to push into your wrist. Is this an issue because you're going to be shooting like this? Not really. It's not a concern for me. It's just a point. Your manual of arms is going to be different, because basically you as a lefty, you're going to have to do everything with your support hand. So basically, to deploy the brace, you're going to be taking the thumb of that support hand, deploying the brace, right, and then you're ready to rock and roll. Your reloads are also going to be a little bit unique, given that this is how you, an option, because there's a couple of how you, this little slider here is how you drop that mag. As a lefty, you're really not going to have access to that, because your hand's going to be covering it up. I do believe that you can move this forward. That's above my pay grade, but something you could look into if you're a lefty and you're going to run this. Sort of emergency reload with the 2-stage setup here would be that mag falls, new mag goes in, and then you're going to be using, again, your thumb to drop that slide. That, frankly, is very intuitive, and I think the lefties just get used to doing shit that's really not made for them. The one thing that is, in my opinion, going to be important for a lefty is this magazine release here, which, again, just drops the mag in the gun, I guess, even though this really isn't part of the gun. But this, you're probably going to want to take this out, which is what we have done. Reason being, hey, this is what your support hand is likely doing, okay? And so that pressure that the palm of your hand is placing on that can actually drop that mag, and that is what has happened with me, which is why we removed it. It's a very quick, very simple fix. This is problematic if you leave it in as a lefty. If you spend 10 seconds to take it out, problem is solved, and it's not a big deal. So the other thing for a lefty, just not critically important, because I don't really view this as something you're going to run with a sling very often. But if you did need to run this with a sling, all your QD mounts are on this side of the gun, which is really as a righty to either run as a 2-point or a single point with your gun like that. If you're running it as a lefty, you're gonna have to get a little bit creative because your QDs are over here. So just something to keep in mind. As a
It's now the Monster Man.
As a consideration there. Okay, getting towards the end here, everyone. One more thing that I think is important to point out is pricing. And depending on your personal life circumstances, this could be a very inexpensive thing for you to set up, or it could get quite pricey. What do I mean by that? Glad you asked. The chassis itself is $460, okay? Which is not bad. I think it's a completely reasonable price for the actual Flux brace itself. The variable is how much of the other shit do you have? What do I mean by that? Do you have a 320? If you do, then you're pretty much gonna have just about everything that you need. Now, if you're like, dude, I really wanna get one of these, I don't have anything related to 320s, you go, okay, cool, well, you gotta go get the Flux brace, you've gotta go get a 320, even though you really don't need the frame or the grip module. That's relatively inexpensive, but you do need the fire control group and then the slide barrel, all that kind of stuff. So you've got to go get a gun on top of the chassis. You're probably going to want a handful of mags. And then it's really up to you from that point. Hey, am I running a red dot on it, light, all that kind of stuff. So depending on, you know, your taste in things, this could ratchet up a little bit of a bill for you, which you may or may not care about, because you're talking about $460 for the brace. You know, a Sig 320, you know, you could be $500 to $1,000 depending on what kind of model you get on that. Totally up to you. If you're getting threaded barrels, that might be extra. You know, I mean, you're looking at optic. Hollow Sun can be $300. RMR can be $600. You know, Surefire X300 could run you $300, or you could go get a $100 light. You know, so it's really for me, it's not a con, it's an observation to look into it before you get one. Just go like, okay, cool, how much shit do I need to get, and just make sure you're comfortable with that before you get it. In terms of, you know, kind of my thoughts on the thing, I think it's a very cool product. My notes are completely fucked, everyone. I think it's a very cool product. I quite like it. It's literally like wet toilet paper. It's been pissed on out here. I appreciate the innovation. You know, it's one of the things I really like about it. I like anytime a company comes around and they go, you know, let's just kind of do some like wild shit and let's play and make stuff. I think it's cool and I appreciate that. And one of the things I think is going to be interesting to see, and I've even brought this up with the Flux guys, is like, you know, I'm really curious to see what your brains come up with next. Because like, this is out of the gates. This is basically your intro as creators and inventors to the world. So I'm gonna be curious to say, hey, well, what else you got cooking around in the old brain there? And I know they got stuff. I don't ask them about what they got because I kind of enjoy being a little bit in the dark sometimes and getting to come along on the ride. But I think also an interesting point is, look, they have a lot of feedback coming from the military and special operations community, and I think that's good, because any bottlenecks that there are, I think they will continue to get worked out, because they do have good feedback coming from good people, and I think that there's a lot of value in that. So yeah, that's about it. You know, it's the best way I would put it is this: is it a perfect product? No. But I don't know that I can think of a perfect product. I mean, there's almost no things out there where you go, well, it's perfect. You go, look, everything's pros and cons. It's all about trade-offs. You get this, but you lose that. So it's not perfect, but it's damn good. And despite me pointing out a couple things related to, you know, lefty stuff and, you know, this thing potentially, you know, going in under a reload or whatever, it's not perfect, but it's damn good. And I would definitely tell you, hey, look, I give it my recommendation. Take all my little dings there with a grain of salt and go, hey, those things are completely acceptable to me, in which case, rock and roll. So that is about that. Cool product. You may have a hard time finding them. That's probably going to be about your biggest bottleneck. So be patient. Try not to get too frustrated. I get it. You want stuff now. You're an American. But, you know, just kind of chill, wait it out. You'll find one eventually. But that's about that, everyone. This is being released in December. So ho, ho, ho. And we hope you're having a great season and drinking hot cocoa and singing Christmas carols, putting up Christmas lights, all that good stuff. So may the spirit be with you this holiday season. We actually love the holiday season here at the Syndicate, as you will see all month with our holiday content. All right. So we hope you enjoy it. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you soon.